Welcome to the Learning Hubs video on how to format a paper in APA 7th edition style. This is a supplement to the previous videos that we had recorded, which were for APA 6th. It is important to know whether your instructor is expecting you to use the older 6th edition or this newer 7th edition, and then view the appropriate video. But hopefully if you're here, that means that you're looking for the 7th edition, and that's what we're here to talk about. So let's jump into it. We have a fresh Word document here. I just opened new and it dropped me into this beautiful fresh sheet of paper. And before you start adding things to this page, it is a good idea to check on a couple of things. The first thing you should check on is under the Layout tab and this Margins button. You want to click that and make sure that it's set to normal. APA requires 1-inch margins on all sides of the page. So that's just something to check. It is the default, but you never know, Word does crazy things sometimes. The next thing you might want to check is under the same Layout tab in the Paragraph section here, you have spacing between your paragraphs. This is where if you hit Enter at the end of a line, it puts additional space in between your lines. And APA does not want this additional space, so you just want to make sure this is set to 0. It's easiest to do this now rather than after you already start adding things to your page, because it can really change the length of your project and what you're dealing with and the spacing between things. So making sure that it's already set to 0 before you start typing anything means that you won't have to worry about it later. With this set to 0, the last thing you want to do is go back to the Home tab and then your spacing, again under the Paragraph section, not to be confused, different tab on the ribbon. But you select the Paragraph tab or the Paragraph section, and then this line or this option right here sets your spacing between your lines. So instead of paragraph spacing, we're talking about line spacing, and APA does ask for double spacing. Now this is something that your instructor may require something different, and it's a good point to mention right now that sometimes your instructor may have different expectations than what the default APA style recommends. In that case, APA says you should go with what your instructor requires. So if your instructor prefers single spacing, for example, do a single spaced essay. Most of the time, though, most instructors say just use APA, and they ask for double spacing. All right, so one of the key differences between the older APA 6th edition and this newer 7th edition is the change to the running head. In APA 6th, they required a running head on all pages. The first page was different from subsequent pages. It was a bit of a mess to build that. In APA 7th, what they have done is they have created 2 different formatting styles, one for professional papers, ones that are actually published in journals, and one for student papers that you're submitting for classes. The good news is that for the student formatted examples, the different guidelines for student papers, they have omitted the running head requirement. All they ask for now is a page number. Again, if your instructor is still looking for a running head, you should still include it. You can check out our other video on APA 6 for how to do that, and refer to our handouts on any specific changes between the older 6th edition and the 7th edition. There are a couple of things that are different with the running head, but by and large, you shouldn't have to include one for your paper. Here's how to do that. So to add your page number, you can either go to the Insert tab and then to the Header and Footer section and go straight to page number, or you can double click at the very top of the page and it will dump you into the header menu that's separate from the rest of your page. Either way, once you're in here, you can go to page number and you select that. You go to top of the page, and then in the drop down that shows up, you select plain number 3. And that all that is it's right aligned on the page. So you click that and it will drop a page number in here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when Word automatically puts things in your paper, it puts it in the default font, in which case this example is in Calibri. So if we go back to the Home tab, you can see it's Calibri 11. In APA's 7th edition guidelines, they do allow a broader range of font styles because they've recognized that sans serif fonts, which Calibri is one of those, are easier for accessibility reasons and screen readers and people with visual disabilities and impairments. However, most instructors still have the expectation of Times New Roman, and a lot of students prefer it too. So make sure that you know whether Calibri, the default font for Word, is acceptable for your instructor, or if you might have to change it to Times New Roman 12-point font. So in which case, we'll just do that. Once you're done with that, you can double click out of the header and it drops you back into the page and you're good to go. So then at this point, you need to make sure you understand whether you need a title page or not. Title pages are another aspect of APA style that is, it depends on what your instructor is looking for whether you include it or not. In this case, I will be building it so you can see what it looks like, but many shorter papers for many classes are not sufficient enough to warrant a full title page. So do check with your instructor about whether they are looking for you to do the full gamut of the title page and everything, or if you can just jump into the paper. But to do a title page in APA style, 7th edition, there are some changes to the 6th edition. They are good changes, I think, because they allow you to provide additional information from what the previous version allowed. So how do you do it? Well, the first thing I would do is center align your cursor. So you go to paragraph in the home tab, center align. From here, we're at the very top of the page, and you can hit enter 3 or 4 times. I've hit it 4 times. This is a little bit different than the previous version, which wanted the information centered on the page. The 7th edition says in the top half of the page. So 3 or 4 lines down is sufficient. Then you actually write your title of your paper first, and APA does want this in bold and in something called title case, which is where the first or all words are capitalized except for what we call trivial words, which are prepositions and conjunctions and articles that don't begin the title or subtitle. So in this case, we would have title of your paper of being trivial, and not the first word would be lowercase, but the rest are uppercase, and then subtitle of your paper. APA does recommend you keep your title brief. It should not extend beyond a single line of your paper. And the subtitle isn't necessary, but it sometimes can be useful to provide additional context about what your paper is about. But in any case, that's the formatting that you're looking for. The next thing is you hit enter twice. APA wants an additional line of space between the title of your paper and the rest of the information. So hit enter twice. You want to make sure you unclick your bold so that you don't have that formatting anymore. And then you proceed with the next information. And so that proceeds in the following list. You put your name, I could type correctly, so Jane Doe will say. Then you hit enter, and then you put what's called author affiliation. In this case, that could be what department you're taking courses in and the institutions. That could be Department of English. I don't know why an English student would be using APA, but you never know. And then University of Illinois Springfield. Then you provide the class information. You can provide the call number and the full name of the class, but just the call number would be sufficient. I think it looks a little weird to have the long affiliation line and then a short class, so the full name of the class is appropriate here. After this, then you give the instructor name. And giving them the appropriate title, honorific would be a good idea. So Dr. Carrie Switzer, Dr. Nathan Steele, whatever the professor's name is, if they hold a doctorate. And then on the next line, you put the due date of the assignment. And APA wants due date structured month first, then the day, comma, year. And with this information, you've got your title page ready to go. Then you can begin the actual proper formatting of the paper itself. And to do this, you could do it in a couple different ways. You could hit enter all the way down, which is fine. It's a little annoying to have to hit it so many times. But another thing that I like to show students is you can use page breaks. So what you do is once you're done typing everything that's going to be on this page, you can go to the layout tab, and then in the page setup section, there's this breaks drop down. And you can just select page, and it will drop you to the top of the next page. If I end up typing anything after this, I can add it in here, and it won't affect where your cursor is on the next page. So that's a handy thing, especially if you want to add your references page early. You don't then have to worry about whether it's at the top of the page after the end of your paper. It will always live at the top of the next page. So if you see here, I put first page. I can then hit enter and go back to breaks, do a page break, and then put my references. It's a handy tool. So we're going to back up though, because I don't want to get ahead of myself. When you're starting your paper in APA, you do put your title again at the top of the page where you're starting your paper. It should be center aligned, bolded, and again in that title case. So what I do is I just copy this and I paste it in. I just realized too that none of my text is in Times New Roman 12-point font. So I just hit Control A to select everything. And I am going to select Times New Roman 12-point font. And you can see, even though that probably messed up some of the margins and spacing of everything on the title page, this is still at the very top of the page. So it's in perfect alignment. Once you put the title on, you hit Enter, unbold, so Control B, or you can click the bold option. And then I hit backspace and it will left align your cursor. You can also go up and select left align. And then you do want a first line indent. So you can either grab this little caret in the toolbar or the ruler, excuse me, which you can show, you can show by going to View and then Ruler here. Or you can just hit Tab to tab over 1/2 inch. At this point, you start writing, and you write your paragraph, same as you normally would. And you go from there. If you have a relatively complicated paper, APA also allows you to use headings to structure and sort of signal to your reader what the various sections of your paper are. I won't necessarily belabor all of the different levels of headings in this video, but I will point out that in our formatted sample paper for APA 7th, we give specific guidelines and examples for what those should look like. So please do visit that for additional guidance. And or make an appointment with us, and we're happy to talk to you about APA. We love that stuff. So the last thing is your references page. And like I said, you can, at some point when you start writing your paper, you can just create a page break. And then if you have a first line indent, make sure that you, when you go to another section of your paper, that you check your ruler, because it will sometimes keep that first line indent. So you don't want to pull that back to 0. It will mess up your formatting. But on your references page, you just center align, and then in bold, you put the word references at the top of the page, and then you hit Enter, and again, you can backspace to left align again, and Control B to unbold. And then you can start listing your citations. On the reference list, citations go in alphabetical order by whatever thing comes first in each citation. Typically, it's the first author's last name. But sometimes it's the title of the work, sometimes it's the name of an organization. Either way, they should be alphabetized, they should also be double-spaced, and they should have a proper hanging indent. Hanging indents are tricky, but we do also have a video on how to format those, so feel free to check that out for additional information on that. But for now, this is an APA formatted paper. I hope it was helpful for you. Please feel free to make an appointment in the Learning Hub. We can go over any of this in more detail with you. But good luck using APA 7th edition. We wish you luck.